Toys for Bob's creative director says Banjo's been hibernating long enough, says current project is big and ambitious. So, do I think that Banjo Kazooie is going to be getting another game coming out soon? I do not know. Now, there's some information that's kind of hinting that that might be the case in this article here, but we'll just have to wait and see. I'm going to go over some of that information. We can go ahead and see that in a bit and what's been stated. But I don't know, man. There is a possibility that this could be the case, and I'm really hoping that that is something that's going to actually be coming to fruition and will actually be something that will be happening in regards to this franchise. Because I'm a big Banjo Kazooie fan myself. I love these games. I played them a lot when I was younger, the first and then the second one, and they're enjoyable. They're really fun, and I'm hoping that if they do decide to come out with the sequel, a proper Banjo 3E, like they stated in the second game originally back in the day, that it will have something that is similar in vein to those games. It will have that kind of heart, that kind of soul to it that made these games really great, and something that's really worth picking up. Now, will that happen? We're gonna see right here in a second. We'll get some information, and then yeah, I'll go ahead and get my thoughts as we go along with the interview. So, in an interview with Canadian Guy A, studio head and creative director of the now independent Toys for Bob team, Paul Yan discussed the studio's progress since becoming independent and how work on its current project is progressing. Yan didn't directly hint at what the studio was working on, instead, just saying that the studio's current project is big and ambitious and pushes our craft to new heights. He did, however, offer a thought that most fans of 3D platformers could agree on. And then what thought is that? So we'll see. So when asked which studio Toys for Bob's would like to work with and the series they'd like to work on if they had their pick, Jan almost immediately went to Banjo Kazooie. Though, of course, that doesn't mean Toys for Bob is working on a new Banjo game. And yeah, that's one of the things that's I feel like has a lot of people, hopeful in this regard to this fan base, because when I did my first video that reached over 1,000 views, it was on a Banjo Kazooie video. It was on the one where the CEO, or I believe the head of Microsoft, was making a comment that nobody cared about Banjo Kazooie, and personally that kind of pissed me off. So it was one of those things when I heard that news, I did a video on it, showed my frustration, and there was actually a lot of people that ended up watching that video, kind of gave similar thoughts to what I felt. Some people didn't agree with my thoughts altogether, saying that it was just very true. Some people don't care about the game, but there were a good amount of people as well that were like, no, like we want to see something come from this franchise, because of the fact that we had Banjo Kazooie, we had Banjo Tooie, and then there was supposed to be Banjo 3, but it never happened. They ended up giving us nuts and bolts. And in my opinion, it was one of those things where it's like, if you guys want to actually have a fan base that cares about this, come out and support it. You got to come up with something better than something like nuts and bolts. So who knows? It'll be one of those things. We'll see what's going to be coming from there. So there's so many, and that's one of the exciting new possibilities of being independent. One company we'd like to work with is one we've already worked with, Team Xbox. They've been a great partner, and they also have very interesting roster of characters that Toys for Bob could have lots of fun with. The Honey Bear is the first one that comes to mind. I think we can all agree Banjo's been hibernating long enough, right? And yeah, that is very true. And then again, there are some people that may have the feeling that, platformers and collectible platformers like that aren't something that's going to really hit the market like it used to. And in a sense, I can kind of understand where they're coming from, but I feel like there's enough old school fans that could get into those types of games and could be something that would be enjoyable to play, myself included, I feel like. So it's clear from Jan's phrasing here that Toys for Bob would be more than interested in giving Banjo Kazooie the same love and care that Crash Bandicoot and Spyro have enjoyed, though we still don't have any idea of what the studio is currently working on. And that is one of the things that also leaves me a little bit hopeful. I never really got into Crash Bandicoot or Spyro, but from what it seemed like when they did work on those two games and kind of do I believe they were remakes that they made for them, they were done with a lot of love and a lot of care. So if there is a company that I wouldn't mind seeing kind of work with Banjo Kazooie along with Xbox, Toys for Bob would definitely be it, because of the fact that it does seem like when they are on top of a project, they are in charge, they actually do kind of give it that care, that love, and is something that they want to actually do well with, which is something all you can ask for at that point. So, Toys for Bob has now been independent for more than a year, and it's also been more than a year since the studio confirmed that its first project as an independent team would still be collaborating with Microsoft and Activision. At the time, Xbox Game Studio head Matt Booty offered that Toys for Bob's first project would be in line with what the studio is already known for. So that's pretty cool. And then, of course, many fans took that as a hint that we'd be getting more Crash Bandicoot after the studio not only remastered the original trilogy, but went ahead and developed new games for the series. Spyro the Dragon was also on the shortlist for what fans expected to see, a new Banjo Kazooie game, however, or a full blown remaster of the original titles fans love so much, would still be very much in line with what Toys for Bob is already known for. And that's one of the things too. When I first heard this article, my first initial thought was that they would probably be doing a remake of the original games, so maybe like 1 and 2, and just kind of doing it on like modern day graphics. I mean, modern day systems, along with better graphics. But the fact that they did kind of state here that, Crash Bandicoot was able to not only get some remakes of the original trilogy, but there were some new games that were made in the franchise through them. So that is something that definitely leaves me, hopeful and excited that there is a possibility that we will be getting some more Banjo Kazooie coming out. Now, is that going to happen for sure? Not really likely at the moment, just because this is just them kind of stating this is something they would like to work on. But hopefully, this will be like the first kind of stepping stones that can kind of make this a possibility of actually being something that happens. Because if they're kind of giving their word out there with this interview that they do want to kind of go this route, I'm really hoping that is going to be the case, because I love this franchise and I wouldn't mind seeing it come back into fruition. I think that'd be really cool. So unfortunately, at least for now, we're unlikely to know what's going on inside Toys for Bob's for a while still. A year into independence, Jan says the studio is very much in the thick of development, so it might be at least another year before the team is ready to start sharing what this new project is. And I don't know if that's necessarily going to be like the Banjo Kazooie that they're mentioning for this project. Could be something else that they're kind of working on, which would kind of push them to kind of have a little bit more leverage to decide if Microsoft will let them work on a Banjo Kazooie type of game. Who knows at this point? But yeah, fingers crossed for me, because like I said, I'm a big Banjo Kazooie fan, and I would really love to be able to see this franchise come back and have something that would be enjoyable to play. Because not only would I be willing to purchase like a remake that if they did one for the original game as well as Banjo Tooie, but if they decided to come out with a third game and actually kind of do an actual Banjo 3 like I've stated, I would definitely be in line to kind of check that out and hope for the best in that regard. So fingers crossed in this regard. Only time will tell, especially considering, like they stated, it'll be about a year before we get any information in regards to something like that actually happening. But if it were to be the case, I would definitely be excited and I'd be really looking forward to it. So those are my thoughts on that. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Is there any Banjo Kazooie fans out there that are excited to kind of hear this news and hope that, this would actually be something that could come to fruition? And if so, do you guys feel like Toys for Bob would be a good company that could actually make this happen like I do? So if you guys can let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments, if you guys could like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you guys have been watching this long, I really appreciate it. It means a lot. And yeah, until next time, Harmonic out. Peace.